Some are on Switzerland's side, others defend the EU's viewpoint. But outside viewers, and I don't mean this channel, agree. The end of the crime story about the framework agreement is imminent. The quiet in Brussels was over on Friday, at least for a short while. The leaden severity of the COVID measures is currently over the city. The streets are unusually empty. A small corner in the EU quarter was seized by nervousness and hustle and bustle on Friday morning. The Swiss EU correspondents waited in front of the EU Commission building for the start of a mini-summit between Switzerland and the EU on the framework agreement, the preliminary climax of a year of negotiation thrillers. The crime thriller moves Swiss minds above all. There is hardly any talk in the EU. But some are watching very closely what is going on, such as Bruno Waterfield, EU correspondent for the British Times. He leaves no doubt that his heart beats for Switzerland's concerns. The EU Commission is doing exactly what it did to the British with the Swiss. It threatens all or nothing, he says. Brussels has learned nothing from Brexit, criticizes Waterfield. It has to become much more flexible if it really wants a deal with Switzerland. Otherwise, the agreement would have no chance in a referendum. The Briton knows the EU very well and has been reporting from Brussels as a critical correspondent for 15 years. He currently sees no signs that the EU is ready for further concessions. Politically, he thinks that's wrong. Unlike the British, the Swiss are very popular with the French, Germans and Italians, and Waterfield's thesis is the Commission is afraid that the easy bilaterals with Switzerland could become too attractive for countries with Eurosceptic movements such as the Netherlands, although there is not such a big Eurosceptic movement in the Netherlands. And he believes that's one of the reasons why the Commission is very dogmatic. So, I need to say a few words about Waterfield. First of all, he's a Eurosceptic for a long time from Britain, so this viewpoint is not a very surprising one. And he's comparing apples to oranges anyway. Switzerland has tons of deals with the EU. It's not a complete new deal here. It's about putting all the old deals in one framework to move forward. The Swiss want more deals with the EU. And that's the point here. But the EU said a long time ago, and that's why it didn't happen with the British, we don't want hundreds of bilateral deals, we want a framework deal. That's what they do with all the other countries nowadays on this planet. Because it gets much easier. Hundreds of bilateral deals, so confusing, so complicated, and they want to make things easier. And of course, they have rules for especially members of EFTA or the EEA that are very close intertwined with the EU. Much closer than the British, by the way. And so it's really comparing apples with oranges. And this is about bringing a big set of single contracts into one big contract. And that you have to keep in mind. It's not about negotiating a new contract for someone who just left, which is completely different. And Switzerland is not a third country in the same sense the UK is. Well, let's continue. Peter Klepper also considers the EU stance to be remarkably tough. The editor-in-chief of the EU critical blog Brussels Report explains this by saying that Switzerland is arousing too little interest. The indifference of the member states towards Switzerland has allowed the EU Commission to negotiate much more aggressively, which is nonsense as well. Many in Europe were emotionally concerned with Brexit, says Klepper, which is nonsense as well, which is one of the few Europeans to follow the Swiss negotiations. The disputes with Switzerland, on the other hand, are of no interest to anyone, although trade is particularly important for the Western European countries. He is convinced that the point of decision is now near. But he says the situation will probably have to worsen a bit before the EU and Switzerland move. And so that's, nonsense. Where they could go is a mystery even to intimate connoisseurs of the dossier. For example, David O'Sullivan, who negotiated the main features of the agreement as an EU diplomat and now works as a consultant in Brussels. I would call the lobbyist probably. It looks like we're in a dead end. Now we have to see how we can get out of there, says O'Sullivan. He too draws an analysis of the Brexit. The Swiss, like our British friends, want to favour and the Wegley. Unlike Waterfield and Klepp, O'Sullivan defends the position of Brussels. The EU has done Switzerland a lot of favours so far, he says, saying that his successors have made concessions that he was not allowed to make. Switzerland does not realize that the EU has already reached its limits. The former diplomat criticizes the Federal Council. Switzerland annoyed many people in Brussels with its negotiating tactics and the way in which the Federal Council sold the agreement. That is enough even at the highest levels. Ursula von der Leyen is disappointed that Switzerland is so hesitant. The outcome of the crime thriller is open, and calm has returned to Brussels for the time being. But one thing is absolutely clear. If Switzerland wants to go ahead with the EU, they cannot have what nobody else got, and even the British did not get, the set of hundreds of small bilateral agreements. Everyone who wants to trade with the EU on the big scale, work with the EU on a big scale, needs to have a framework agreement, and who wants to have such an amount of access to the customs union and the single market has to play by those rules. That went for the British, which decided because of that not to be in the internal market and the customs union, and the same goes for Switzerland. But I have to agree with one point. Most of the people here in the EU, citizens, are neither interested in what's going on with Switzerland and neither are interested what's going on with Brexit. The companies affected are interested, but to be honest, almost nobody else. That's a problem. I would prefer people to be much more informed on the EU because there's a lot of misunderstanding there, but it is the way it is. But if you want to stay informed and you are more informed than others because you already watch videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.